The dawn light trickled through the dense canopy, painting the forest floor with soft golden streaks. Liang knelt by the riverbank, yet his mind raced faster than the flowing water beside him. Thoughts collided. Yesterday's mistakes, tomorrow's uncertainties, fleeting worries that had no name. Every decision felt heavy, every impulse a battle. His body was trained, his muscles responsive, yet the chaos inside him betrayed the strength outside. He rose, performed his kata, and yet each movement carried hesitation. The mentor watched silently from the shadows of the bamboo grove, a figure as still as stone, yet alive with contained energy. He did not speak, for words could not reach a mind unsteady. Instead, he gestured for Liang to sit. "The storm you feel," he said finally, voice low, "is not in the world. It is within you. Until you meet it, understand it, you will remain fractured. You cannot strike decisively if your mind wavers." Liang's chest tightened. His ego resisted the notion. He had trained, he had fought, he had disciplined his body, yet here he was, vulnerable, exposed, undone by his own scattered mind. The mentor led him to a quiet glade where only the wind and the soft murmur of the river filled the silence. "Begin by observing," he instructed. "Do not chase thoughts. Do not judge them. See them as clouds passing over the sky of your mind." Liang closed his eyes and tried. His mind resisted, darting from one thought to another. Fear of failure, shame at weakness, desire for recognition. Each distraction was a ripple across a turbulent pond. He focused on his breath. Inhale, exhale. Slowly, the chaos began to settle, like sediment falling to the bottom of a clear stream. Awareness dawned. The storm was not external. It was internal, self-created, and therefore could be understood, managed, and eventually quieted. The mentor handed him a brush and a blank scroll. "Write," he instructed. "Write every fear, every doubt, every fleeting impulse. Lay them down before you. Name them. Observe them without attachment." Liang hesitated. Writing felt like surrendering, like admitting defeat. But he obeyed. Words poured onto the paper, messy at first, then more precise. Each line carved space in his mind, each stroke a channel for clarity. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher, the forest alive with birdsong. Liang began to notice subtle changes. Emotionally, his frustration lessened. Mentally, a stillness settled over him. Physically, his movements grew lighter, more deliberate. Even his breath lengthened and deepened, aligning with the rhythm of his awareness. The mentor's gaze softened. "This is the first blade of your training," he said. "Discipline of the mind cuts through distraction, doubt, and fear. To conquer the world outside, you must first conquer the world inside." Later, as Liang faced a simple yet demanding exercise, balancing on a narrow log while executing a precise kata, the outut, impulse to abandon, to flee back to safety, surged. His body screamed for ease, yet his mind paused. He remembered the morning's reflection, the writing, the meditation. He breathed. Step by step, movement by movement, he continued. The log became a bridge between inner turmoil and outward action. A new sensation emerged. Focus, fragile but tangible, like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. The first lesson of the Taoist warrior etched itself into Liang's consciousness. Mastery begins with observing oneself, embracing patience and resisting impulse. Chaos could no longer dictate action. Hesitation could be tempered. Awareness became the anchor. As dusk approached, Liang stood atop a small ridge overlooking the flowing river. The water's endless motion mirrored his mind, yet now he observed it, detached but attentive. Silence, discipline, and reflection had begun to forge a weapon far sharper than any blade, a mind capable of relentless focus. Transition to Chapter 2. And so, having glimpsed the power of self-awareness, Liang would next learn the hidden strength of silence, where presence itself becomes a weapon. Night descended slowly over the forest, and Liang remained at the ridge, the air cooling against his skin. The river's song grew louder in the quiet, and for the first time, he noticed the subtle sounds of the world. A distant owl, the rustle of leaves, the vibration of his own heartbeat. Each sound, once drowned out by mental chatter, now carried significance. He understood that the mind's unrest had muted the world's clarity. By stilling his thoughts, he could perceive what had always been present. The mentor approached, his steps silent on the moss-covered earth. "Your mind has shown glimpses of clarity," he said, "but one glimpse is not mastery. The storm will return, as it always does. Your task is to meet it every day, and each day you will understand it more deeply. Awareness is not a state, it is a practice." Liang bowed, humility mingled with newfound resolve. Over the following days, the exercises intensified. He practiced breath work while maintaining full awareness of his body, the stretch of a tendon, the alignment of his spine, the rhythm of each footfall. Meditation extended into motion. Kata became an exercise in precise presence rather than mechanical repetition. Each moment was a test of his ability to remain anchored, even as distractions arose. Doubts about skill and readiness surfaced relentlessly, yet Liang no longer resisted them. He observed. Every flicker of fear, every surge of impatience was met with a gentle acknowledgement. "I see you, and you do not control me." One morning, during a rigorous balancing exercise atop a narrow ridge, while performing a complex sequence of stances, a gust of wind threatened to unseat him. The old reflex, to react, to brace, to panic, emerged instinctively. But Liang paused. He inhaled, grounding himself in the rhythm of breath and muscle memory. Instead of flinching, he allowed the wind to pass, feeling its energy and adjusting his center subtly, naturally. The sensation was liberating. He realized mastery was not the absence of fear or distraction, but the capacity to act with composure despite them. By midweek, journaling had become more than an exercise. It was a mirror reflecting the mind's patterns. Liang began to notice recurring cycles. The mind's urge for immediate reward, the ego's need for validation, the fear of imperfection. Recognition without judgment allowed him to respond deliberately. Emotionally, he felt steadier. Mentally, his thoughts aligned. Physically, even his movements became more economical, precise, intentional. The fragmented self was slowly knitting together, strand by strand. The mentor observed quietly from the edge of the training ground. "You are learning the first principle," he said. "Awareness of self is the foundation. Only when the mind is disciplined can the body act with true intent. Every movement without observation is wasted energy. Every action without presence is blind. This is the path of the Taoist warrior. To silence doubt, you must first know the shape of your mind, the currents of your thought, the impulses that pull you away from the present." By the end of the first chapter of training, Liang understood a profound truth. The fiercest battle is not with enemies or elements, but with one's own mind. Focus, patience, and awareness were the first weapons he would wield, and only through them could the chaos outside be met with composure. The storm within had not vanished, but it was no longer a tyrant. It had become a guide, teaching him the rhythm of stillness, the discipline of presence, and the quiet power of self-mastery. Transition to Chapter 2. Having faced the turbulence of his own mind, Liang would now discover how silence itself becomes a sharpening stone, honing perception and presence into a weapon of clarity. The morning fog lingered between the trees like a suspended veil, softening the forest's edges. Liang stood at the edge of a still pond, its surface perfectly mirroring the sky above. The mentor's voice, calm and unwavering, broke the silence. Today, you will learn the power of quiet. Not the quiet of absence, but the quiet that sharpens. Liang's first instinct was to fidget, to speak, to fill the void with movement or thought. Every step felt exposed, every second stretched with uncertainty. In the emptiness, his anxieties swelled. The mind, untethered by sound or distraction, projected doubts like phantom shadows. His breath became uneven, tension gripped shoulders and jaw. The mentor observed silently, a sentinel of experience, knowing the turbulence was necessary. "Silence is the forge," he said. "Only when the mind is still can clarity emerge, and only clarity guides action." They began with a simple exercise, observation without interference. Liang was instructed to sit beside the pond, eyes open, breath steady, noticing every detail. The ripple of water, the flutter of a leaf, the distant calls of birds. Thoughts surged, past failures, imagined futures, the urge to speak or judge. Each distraction became an opportunity. He returned focus to the present, again and again. Slowly, he realized that silence was not emptiness. It was a canvas, and his awareness painted it with precision. Walking through the misted forest, Liang noticed the sounds of the world he had ignored before. The subtle hum of insects, the brush of wind through leaves, the rhythm of his own heartbeat in time with the earth. Each sound was distinct, a note in the symphony of presence. Movement became a study in deliberation. Every step, every turn, every gesture was measured. He discovered that silence amplified perception. What was unseen in noise became vivid in stillness. Emotional turbulence softened. The anxiety of expectation gave way to calm observation. The mentor's next challenge was subtle but profound. A simulated ambush. Hidden from sight, the mentor moved with the unpredictability of wind, challenging Liang to respond without reactionary haste. At first, Liang's impulses were chaotic. Hands moved too quickly, feet shifted too late, breath faltered. The mind screamed for action, yet instinct collided with observation. Then, recalling the morning exercises, he paused. He breathed, attuned to the smallest signs, a twig snapping under weight, a shadow shifting with the fog, the pattern of movement in the forest. Instead of striking or fleeing immediately, he waited. The clarity of observation guided him, and when action was required, it was precise, deliberate, unavoidable. Through this trial, Liang understood the paradox. Stillness creates power. The mind, once calm, informs the body with precision. Hesitation born of doubt becomes decisive clarity. Silence transforms into a weapon of focus. Emotionally, he found calm. Mentally, sharpness. Physically, exactitude. For the first time, Liang experienced the flow where observation, patience, and intention converged. He sensed the energy of the forest, the rhythm of life around him, and, most importantly, the rhythm within himself. The mentor stepped forward, voice barely above the whisper of wind. "Silence is not passive," he said. "It is the refinement of attention. A warrior's mind must learn to listen, to observe, to wait. In this stillness, you discover what is essential, what is false, and what demands action. The world's chaos cannot pierce the mind that has learned to dwell in silence. Liang exhaled, feeling the tension of years dissipate. He realized that the stillness was not merely a pause from action, it was preparation for action. Each breath, each heartbeat, each measured movement honed him, cultivating relentless focus. He began to see that the power of silence extended beyond the forest. It was the internal architecture of presence, the unseen structure that would guide every choice, every motion, every decision from this day forward. Transition to Chapter 2. Part 2. As Liang deepens his practice, he will confront a trial that demands complete stillness and unwavering observation, revealing the true potency of silence as the weapon of a disciplined mind. The fog thickened as the morning passed, curling around tree trunks and spilling over mossy stones like a slow tide. Liang remained seated, eyes scanning without judgment, ears attuned to every vibration in the air. The simulated ambush continued, a test of patience, perception, and presence. Every time the mentor shifted position, every subtle noise became a signal. Liang's mind, once scattered with anxiety and doubt, now wove a tapestry of awareness. Each movement of the environment, the rustle of a leaf, the ripple across the pond, the faintest footstep, was catalogued and interpreted. He noticed his own body with newfound clarity, the subtle sway of weight from one foot to another, the tightening of shoulders, the quickening of pulse. Instead of fighting these sensations, he acknowledged them, observing without attachment. Fear no longer triggered impulsive motion. Anticipation became measured, deliberate. Every breath was counted, controlled, and synchronized with his senses. The forest itself seemed to slow, revealing patterns previously invisible in the chaos of his mind. The silence did not suppress thought, it refined it. A sudden shadow flitted near the water's edge. Liang's instincts tugged toward immediate reaction, but the teachings echoed in his mind. Wait, observe, let clarity guide you. He exhaled, slowed the heartbeat racing through his chest, and allowed his awareness to expand outward. The shadow approached. Only when he fully understood its movement, its rhythm, did he move. The action was seamless, almost invisible, executed with calm precision. This was not reflex. It was disciplined awareness, the embodiment of silence as a force. Emotionally, he felt a quiet triumph. The tension of internal chaos had dissolved, replaced by calm certainty. Mentally, his attention no longer flitted from thought to thought. It held steady, anchored in the present. Physically, every movement was efficient, purposeful, and fluid. Silence, he realized, was not merely the absence of noise. It was the sharpening of mind and body into a single, coherent instrument. The mentor approached, voice gentle yet commanding. The world will never pause for you, Liang. Chaos will come. Noise will intrude. The mind will rebel. Only through stillness can you meet it, not with reaction, but with mastery. Remember, the warrior's strength lies not in speed alone, but in the clarity that guides every move. Liang absorbed the words, understanding that this lesson extended far beyond the forest. Silence was a tool for life itself, a conduit through which focus and insight flowed, transforming distraction into deliberate action. By the time the sun broke fully through the mist, casting golden streaks across the pond, Liang felt a shift within him. Doubt, though not vanished, had lost its grip. Fear, once a whisper in the back of his mind, had been reduced to a signal, an indicator of where attention was needed. Ego, so eager to dominate and rush, had been tempered by patience. In its place, presence had arisen, steady, unyielding, and precise. He began to comprehend that mastery of silence was mastery of self. As the morning drew to a close, Liang rose, muscles loose but alert, eyes clear, mind centered. The forest was alive around him, but he was no longer separate from it. He was attuned, synchronized with its rhythms. Silence had become his ally, a weapon forged through patient observation, controlled breath, and unwavering attention. Every future challenge, every decision, every movement could now be guided by this principle. Clarity emerges from stillness, strength from quiet, focus from presence. The mentor gave a slight nod. You have learned the first truth of the Taoist warrior. Stillness is power. But the path does not end here. Discipline must now become flow. Ritual must temper the mind and body, and the scattered energy within you must be channeled into relentless, effortless focus. Transition to Chapter 3. Discipline as flow. Having discovered the strength in silence, Liang will now immerse himself in rigorous rituals that transform discipline into fluid, unshakable focus, aligning mind, body, and spirit. The first light of dawn spilled over the mountains, brushing the river with gold and silver. Liang rose before it, the cold air biting at exposed skin, lungs filling with sharp, crisp oxygen. Today would be another test of ritual, another lesson in transforming scattered energy into steady flow. The mentor's gaze followed him, calm but unyielding, as if the very mountains themselves were reflected in those ancient eyes. Discipline, the mentor had said the night before, is not punishment. It is the river that shapes the stone. Liang began with meditative walking along the riverbank. Every step was deliberate, each heel meeting the ground in measured rhythm, toes rolling with precision, breath synchronized with motion. Inhale, exhale, inhale. His mind, once a storm of doubts and fleeting thoughts, now traced the movement of the body as if studying a living equation. The muscles learned to act in harmony with intention, nerves aligning with awareness. Every sensation, cold water trickling over feet, the softness of moss under palm, the wind tugging at hair, was noted but not reacted to. Observation was action. Action was observation. After walking, Liang moved to the repetitive forms of the martial art, the katas he had performed so many times before, but never with such deliberate intention. Each strike, block, and pivot was executed with internal focus, every movement flowing seamlessly into the next. Pain began to creep into muscles unaccustomed to such rigor, the rhythm of exhaustion pressing against mental fortitude. The temptation to rush, to skimp, to let thought wander arose, but he countered it with controlled breath and awareness. The discipline of repetition became a form of meditation, a moving prayer, a dialogue between mind, body, and spirit. The mentor observed silently from the edge of the clearing. Energy scattered cannot manifest as power, he said at last. You must channel each impulse, each sensation, each thought. Ritual aligns you with the present moment, and only in this alignment can flow arise. Liang nodded, absorbing the words, feeling them settle in the marrow of his bones. Discipline was not a chain, but a current, guiding him through resistance, fatigue, and distraction. By midday, Liang progressed to endurance drills, carrying weighted logs, maintaining postures until shaking threatened collapse. running circuits that challenged every fiber of strength. Sweat streamed down his face, muscles burned, lungs screamed. Yet, in every movement, he noticed a subtle transformation. Pain became information, fatigue became signal, and every temptation to quit became an opportunity to practice presence. Discipline no longer felt external. It flowed from the core, radiating outward, syncing thought, intention, and motion. Emotionally, he felt a quiet resilience building, a steady flame against the gusts of frustration. Mentally, chaos receded, replaced by structured focus. Physically, his body moved in concert with thought, responding instantaneously, no longer dominated by scattered impulses. The repetition of ritual had begun to forge his mind and body into a unified instrument, ready to meet any challenge with composure. Yet, the mentor knew the ultimate lesson had yet to come. Flow is not found in comfort. Flow emerges in resistance. Only when the body and mind are pushed beyond expectation, yet still perform with intention, do you begin to approach mastery. Liang's next trial would push him to the brink, forcing him to confront exhaustion, environmental hostility, and the limits of endurance. Here, ritual would reveal its deepest power, the ability to create effortless focus through disciplined action. Transition to Part 2. The river's current mirrors the mind's path. Only when challenged by storms does the discipline of ritual transform scattered energy into unstoppable flow. Liang will soon face his ultimate test of endurance and presence, where ritual becomes mastery in motion. As the sun climbed higher, clouds gathered, rolling across the mountains like restless spirits. The mentor led Liang to a clearing where the earth was soaked from the previous night's rain, the wind sharp and unyielding. Today's test, a full sequence of forms and endurance exercises under the assault of nature itself. Every step would be made on slippery ground, every strike met with gusts threatening balance. Liang felt the instinct to resist, to stiffen, to fight the environment. But the mentor's words echoed. Discipline is not rigidity, it is flow. He began, moving through the forms with a grace that belied the chaos around him. Muscles quivered, lungs burned, but every motion remained deliberate, every breath synchronized. The wind tugged at arms, the mud pulled at feet, yet Liang allowed the resistance to guide him rather than hinder. He observed the body's reactions, adjusting, yielding, and redirecting energy. Pain became a teacher, revealing weak points, hesitations, and unrefined balance. With each repetition, the mind settled further into the body, into the rhythm of present moment awareness. Hours passed. The sun dipped toward the horizon, clouds darkening, droplets of rain beginning to fall. Liang's endurance was pushed to its edge. Every fiber ached, every thought begged for distraction, yet through ritual he found focus unbroken. The repetition of movement had become meditation, the repetition of breath a mantra. The chaos outside mirrored the storm within, but neither held power over him. Discipline had transformed scattered energy into calm, precise motion. The mentor watched quietly, noting the subtle shifts in Liang's demeanor. Where there had been hesitation, there was now fluidity. Where there had been mental chatter, clarity prevailed. The Taoist principle crystallized. Mastery is not granted. It is forged in the crucible of repeated conscious practice. Discipline is not merely adherence to action. It is the cultivation of presence through repetition, the bridge between intention and execution. As Liang completed the final sequence, sweat and rain mingling on his skin, he felt the culmination of the day's lessons. Flow was no longer external, it was a state of being. His body moved as a single entity with his mind, each action arising naturally, effortlessly, yet with power and precision. The river that had whispered at dawn now coursed through him internally, unstoppable and unfragmented. Emotionally, he felt resilience carved into his spirit. Mentally, clarity ruled where chaos had once reigned. Physically, every movement was aligned with purpose, his body and mind inseparable instruments. The mentor approached, nodding with quiet approval. "This is the power of ritual," he said. "Through disciplined repetition, you learn not only skill, but the flow of presence. Only when mind, body, and spirit act in harmony can true mastery arise." Liang gazed at the flowing river below, understanding for the first time the depth of what had been taught. Discipline was not punishment. It was the current guiding him, shaping him, transforming scattered effort into relentless focus. The storm, the fatigue, the resistance, all were catalysts for flow. Through ritual, he had learned to move beyond distraction, to act with intention, to let the present moment dictate movement rather than impulse. Transition to Chapter 4. Now tempered in. Body and mind, Liang must confront the next crucible, fear itself. Only by embracing and observing fear can his newfound discipline evolve into unshakable clarity and unwavering presence. The forest grew dense and shadowed as Liang followed the mentor along a narrow path carved into the mountainside. Mist clung to the pines, dampening sound, muting the world into a quiet anticipation. Here, the usual distractions of thought, the chatter of the ego, and the pull of desire fell away. But fear found him. It arrived uninvited, whispering uncertainty with every step. Heights, uneven ground, hidden roots. The path was simple, yet his mind inflated danger, conjuring specters that did not exist. The mentor stopped abruptly. "Fear is not your enemy," he said, voice low, calm, yet unwavering. "It is the compass that points to where presence is needed. Observe it. Respect it. Do not react blindly." Liang's chest tightened. The instinct to flee surged, to retreat to safety, to deny the warning tremors coursing through him. Yet the mentor did not move. He simply watched, a still figure amid the swirling mist, a demonstration of steadiness in the face of uncertainty. Liang sat, cross-legged on the forest floor, and began to breathe deliberately. Inhaling, he counted to 4. Holding, he counted. Exhaling, he counted again. The rhythm of breath anchored him, a tether between body and mind. With each cycle, the mind's storm, rapid thoughts, imagined dangers, self-criticism, began to calm. Fear was present, but it no longer commanded the moment. Instead, it became data, a signal of vulnerability, a mirror reflecting the mind's tension. The mentor instructed him to walk slowly along the cliffside path, where a misstep could mean a fall. Each footfall was measured, each shift of weight deliberate. The wind tugged at his balance, the uneven ground tested his focus, yet he noticed each sensation without judgment. His pulse was high, but awareness sharpened. Every detail, the rough bark of a tree, the cool brush of mist, the distant call of a bird, became vivid, anchoring him in the present. Fear was no longer a tyrant. It was a guide, pointing to where attention must remain absolute. Hours passed in this careful vigilance. Liang learned to act not out of panic or avoidance, but with calm, intentional responses. The nervous tremor in his hands, the quickened breath, the urge to look away, all were acknowledged and allowed to exist without control. Slowly, he discovered a paradox. In observing fear, it lost its power. In embracing uncertainty without surrender, presence expanded. Emotion replaced agitation. Analysis replaced panic. Controlled action replaced reflexive reaction. The mentor finally spoke, breaking the silence. Every trial, every shadow, every heartbeat of doubt is your teacher. Fear is the hand that guides you to focus. To silence the mind, to awaken clarity, you must let it show you where attention is required, not where avoidance tempts you. Liang nodded, understanding that fear itself was not a barrier, but the very tool that could forge unshakable focus. As he sat atop the ridge, overlooking the forest veiled in mist, he realized the lesson's depth. Courage was not absence of fear, it was mastery over the response to it. Presence, honed through calm observation, was the antidote to doubt. Fear had shifted from foe to teacher, from threat to guide. The Taoist principle became undeniable. By facing fear directly, by observing it without judgment, the mind and spirit could achieve clarity, composure, and decisive power. Transition to Chapter 4, Part 2. Now, Liang must be tested under extreme pressure, where fear and action converge, and his ability to act with unwavering focus will be revealed. The mentor led Liang to a secluded clearing bordered by jagged rocks. The air was dense with anticipation, the silence heavy, as if the forest itself awaited the trial. Without a word, the mentor gestured toward a sudden challenge, a series of tasks designed to provoke immediate reaction. A sharp rope swung from a tree, mimicking an incoming strike. A hidden pit, shallow yet disorienting, demanded careful steps. A sudden call echoed from the tree line, startling, unannounced. Liang's instincts screamed for haste, for reaction, yet the mentor's eyes reminded him. Presence, not reflex, would determine mastery. Liang inhaled, steadying his pulse. The fear that had once gripped him like iron now acted as a signal, a map of where his awareness needed to be sharpest. Each step, each movement, became deliberate. When the rope swung toward him, he did not jerk or retreat. He observed its arc, timed his movement, and shifted with precise control. When approaching the pit, he did not rush or hesitate. He measured the distance, aligned his body, and moved deliberately. The forest, once threatening, became a teacher through every sensation and decision. Time seemed to stretch. Liang's awareness expanded beyond his body, sensing the subtle shifts in air, the rustle of leaves, the unseen rhythm of nature itself. Fear, rather than shrinking his perception, sharpened it. His mind was quiet, yet alert. His body was steady, yet responsive. Every heartbeat became a metronome, every breath a guide. The trial demanded absolute presence, and he delivered. Action emerged not from impulse, but from observation, intention, and alignment. The mentor finally nodded, a faint smile touching the corner of his lips. "You see now," he said softly. "Fear does not weaken the warrior. It teaches where the mind must be, where attention must dwell. It is the mirror that reflects the cracks in our presence. Master fear, and you master clarity." Liang felt a calm certainty wash over him, a mental stillness that had once seemed impossible. The lesson was no longer theoretical. It was embodied in each precise, unshakable movement he had executed under pressure. As the sun began its descent, painting the mountains in hues of amber and gold, Liang understood the full Taoist truth. The path to silence and clarity passes through fear. Courage is cultivated not in comfort, but in the deliberate confrontation of uncertainty. Presence transforms fear into insight, hesitation into measured action, doubt into clarity. The mind, once turbulent and fractured, now moved in harmony with body and spirit. This trial marked a turning point. Liang had learned that the Taoist warrior's strength lies not in the absence of fear, but in the discipline to observe it, to integrate it, and to act in alignment with the present moment. Every doubt that once assailed him was now a guidepost, every anxiety a pointer to heightened awareness. In the crucible of fear, clarity had been forged. Transition to Chapter 5. Having mastered fear as a teacher, Liang is now prepared to confront the ego itself, learning that true presence and mastery emerge when pride, attachment, and distraction are surrendered to deliberate awareness. The forest felt different that morning. The mist hung low, and a quiet wind whispered through the bamboo. Liang stood beneath an ancient tree, its gnarled roots anchoring it firmly to the earth, a reminder that strength comes from grounding, not from outward display. The mentor's presence was steady nearby, silent yet commanding. "Today," he said, "you face the final illusion, the self that demands recognition, speed, and control. Ego blinds the mind. It fractures presence. You must see it clearly." Liang felt the tension immediately. Pride had long driven him, his desire to succeed, to act swiftly, to impress. He realized how often he had acted from that place, mistaking motion for mastery. The mentor guided him through a series of rituals, deliberate breathing, seated meditation, and slow, mindful walking through uneven terrain. Each action was meant to reveal the subtle impulses of ego, how quickly he rushed, how often his thoughts leapt ahead of his body, how easily attachment pulled him from the present. Emotionally, it was uncomfortable. Mental friction arose as old habits pressed against awareness. Yet every inhalation, every step demanded his attention. During a simulated challenge, a duel with an unseen opponent, Liang felt the ego stir. His mind wanted to anticipate, to strike preemptively, to assert dominance. But the mentor's gaze reminded him, move from presence, not desire. Liang paused, feeling the tension in his shoulders, the quickening of his heart. Slowly, he let the impulse fall away. Movements arose organically, aligned with breath, balance, and observation. The attack and defense became a dance of pure presence rather than ego-driven action. With each passing moment, Liang noticed the subtle but profound shift. His mind was calm, yet razor-sharp, his body responsive, yet unhurried. The actions flowed without attachment to outcome, without desire for recognition. Emotionally, pride lost its grip. Mentally, clarity expanded. Spiritually, a sense of effortless alignment emerged. The duel was no longer a test of dominance, but a mirror of internal mastery. Even as he moved, he could feel how ego had once clouded perception, how attachment had fragmented his attention. By consciously surrendering these impulses, the mind achieved a clarity that was once unimaginable. Strength no longer came from force or speed, but from quiet observation, disciplined presence, and alignment of body and spirit. The lesson crystallized. Mastery is internal. External victories are secondary. The true triumph is the control of self. The sun rose higher, filtering through the leaves in dappled patterns. Liang, for the first time, felt the integration of all previous lessons, discipline, silence, and fear, converging into deliberate action. Ego, once a roaring distraction, was now recognized, observed, and transcended. The Taoist principle of stillness in motion had revealed itself fully. Mastery is the harmony of mind, body, and spirit, unmarred by pride or desire. Transition to Chapter 6. Having surrendered ego and embraced pure presence, Liang is ready to integrate these lessons into life, moving forward with calm clarity and unshakable focus. The duel ended, but the practice continued. Liang sat cross-legged, feeling the subtle hum of energy coursing through him. Every muscle relaxed, yet every sense remained alert. The mentor approached, eyes reflecting quiet satisfaction. "Ego is not destroyed," he said. "It is understood, contained, and transformed. Presence is the sword. Ego is the sheath. Only by mastering the sheath does the blade move freely." Liang reflected on the countless trials, the early mornings, the relentless repetition of forms, the silence that once felt suffocating, the fear that had gripped his heart. Each had been a layer, peeling away distraction and pretense, revealing the core of his mind. Ego, he realized, was the final veil, subtle, seductive, yet easily managed once attention was fully anchored in the present. He practiced mindful action throughout the day, lifting water from the stream, arranging stones along a path, walking deliberately across uneven ground. Each gesture, no matter how mundane, became a test of presence. The mind no longer rushed. It did not seek reward. Thought and movement aligned seamlessly. The distinction between action and awareness blurred, leaving only effortless engagement. A gentle breeze stirred the bamboo, carrying the scent of wet earth and pine. Liang felt a deep calm settle within him, a stillness that was both resilient and fluid. He recognized that mastery was not a point to reach, but a continuous state of being. Ego no longer demanded control. Presence reigned. Discipline, ritual, silence, and controlled fear now converged into fluid action, each reinforcing the other. By evening, Liang could see the full picture. The hidden Taoist ritual was more than a practice. It was a way of life. Every doubt had been confronted, every impulse observed, every fear respected and channeled. The mind's clarity had become unshakable, focus relentless, spirit steady. He understood that this mastery was not about the outward world, but about the internal harmony that allowed effortless response, calm action, and unwavering presence. The mentor nodded silently as the sun dipped below the horizon. Liang stood, feeling the integration of body, mind, and spirit. The warrior within was tempered, his mind sharpened, ego subdued, presence unbreakable. The path of Taoist stillness had revealed its ultimate truth. Mastery of self is the foundation of every action, and clarity emerges when ego is contained, fear transformed, and the mind anchored in the eternal present. Transition to Chapter 6. With ego transcended and presence perfected, Liang steps into the world ready to live the Taoist path, where every action flows from clarity, calm, and unwavering focus. The morning sun spilled over the ridge, painting the mountains in shades of gold and amber. Liang stood at the edge, the wind carrying the crisp scent of pine and river. The world below moved as always, rushing, chaotic, restless. But here, above it all, he felt a profound stillness. The lessons of months, the hours of disciplined practice, the trials of fear and ego had all converged into a singular truth. Stillness is not absence, but power in motion. The mentor, silent as ever, observed from a short distance. "The path does not end here," he said softly. "You have learned the rituals, faced the storms within, and mastered presence. But life will continue to test you. The river flows, the wind shifts, and distractions will appear. The warrior's mind must remain vigilant." Liang recalled the early days, when every doubt clawed at his mind, when every distraction fractured his focus. Now He could observe such thoughts without surrender. The mind had become a calm river, flowing around obstacles rather than colliding with them. Even in movement, he could feel the rhythm of his breathing align with the rhythm of life itself. He began walking down the narrow mountain path. Each step was deliberate, measured, yet effortless. He noticed the texture of the earth beneath his feet, the subtle vibrations of the stones, the whisper of the wind through the leaves. Every detail demanded awareness, yet there was no strain in his attention. His body and mind were a single instrument of presence. Along the way, Liang encountered a small village. Children ran laughing, dogs barked, and merchants called out their wares. Once, this scene would have sparked distraction, irritation, or envy. Now he felt only observation and quiet engagement. He offered a nod to an elder, feeling the simple exchange carry weight and meaning. Every interaction, he realized, could be a continuation of practice, an opportunity to integrate stillness into the motion of the world. The mentor's words echoed in his mind. Discipline, presence, fear, ego, they are threads in the same tapestry. When woven with care, they create a life of effortless action. Liang began to see that the Taoist path was not a series of exercises to perform, but a living system. Daily life itself was the dojo. Every moment could be a test, and every moment a practice of clarity. He paused at a stream, kneeling to touch the water. It flowed over his hands, cold and vivid, reflecting sunlight in fragmented patterns. In its movement, he saw both impermanence and continuity. Thoughts of the past and concerns for the future appeared like ripples on the surface, acknowledged but not clung to. In that awareness, the mind settled into an effortless calm, and focus became instinctual rather than forced. Every challenge from this point forward, whether fear, distraction, or doubt, would be met with the same principle: observation, presence, and deliberate action. Stillness had become not a retreat, but a way of engaging the world with precision and clarity. Liang felt a quiet confidence, not born of arrogance, but of the unshakable grounding of his inner practice. Transition. As the sun reached its zenith, Liang stepped forward, ready to integrate the lessons into life, understanding that the path of Taoist stillness is not a destination, but an ongoing journey of clarity, discipline, and mindful presence. The day unfolded slowly, each moment offering a quiet test. Liang moved through the village, mindful of every action. He carried water from the well, not hurriedly, but with full attention to the rhythm of lifting, balancing, and pouring. He swept the courtyard with deliberate sweeps, each motion precise yet relaxed. Even the simplest tasks had become a practice of presence, a continuation of the Taoist ritual that now guided every step of his life. At midday, a sudden commotion arose. A child tripped near the edge of the stream, the cry sharp in the otherwise calm air. In the past, Liang might have reacted impulsively, rushing forward, fear spiking his heart. Now, he observed first the child's balance, the slope of the bank, the water's flow. Then, with a calm decisiveness, he moved, guiding the child safely back to solid ground. There was no panic, no hesitation, only the seamless application of focused presence. Even in crisis, the stillness within him dictated his actions. Later, as the sun began its descent, Liang sat beneath an ancient tree, feeling the wind move through its branches. He closed his eyes, and for a long moment, there was only breath. The practices of meditation, ritual, and conscious observation merged into effortless awareness. Doubt, fear, and ego, The forces that had once shaken him now existed as mere background, acknowledged but not influential. In their absence of control over him, he discovered freedom. The mentor appeared beside him, a shadow in the fading light. "You have walked the path. Yet, remember," he said gently, "the journey of stillness is endless. Each day will offer distractions, challenges, and tests. The difference now is that you are equipped to meet them without losing your center. Presence is your sword, clarity your shield, life is your dojo." Liang reflected on the months of rigorous practice. The inner storms faced, the silence embraced, the rituals repeated until movement itself became meditation, the fear transformed into guidance. He realized that mastery was not a point to reach, but a living process, a continual engagement with the self, refined and renewed with every breath. As twilight fell, he rose, standing on the ridge where the mountains kissed the sky. The valley below shimmered in the evening light, the river still flowing, unstoppable and serene. Liang's mind, once a tempest of doubt and distraction, now mirrored the river, steady, clear, and purposeful. His body moved with ease, his awareness fully engaged, and his spirit aligned with the rhythm of life. The hidden Taoist ritual had revealed its final truth, that silence and presence, cultivated with discipline and courage, could silence every doubt and transform every action into focused mastery. In that moment, Liang understood that the warrior's path is not measured by victory or fame, but by the ability to walk through life with unwavering clarity, deliberate action, and serene presence.